What do you say? What do you know? It's the full Monty Sports Show. It is Sunday, 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 July 19th, 2020. I am your host, Monty Perez, aka the Sports Whisperer. You can follow me on Twitter. My handle is right there in the lower left-hand corner at MontyJP231. I know it's a terrible Twitter name, but it's the best I could do right now. And also follow me on Facebook, Monty Perez, and I just signed up for Instagram, Monty Perez 2. I want to thank everyone who listened to the full Monty Sports Show and watched last week. We had tremendous response. I love the comments. A lot of people were talking about the comments during the show. They are so funny. Just click on your top right-hand corner for the comments, and you see people live chatting during the show. I will try to answer as many as I can. The goal of this show is simple. We want to entertain you. We want to make you think. We want to make you laugh. And my personal goal is to be on the air 5 days a week. I can only do that with your help. So please subscribe to Nuts and Bolts Sports on YouTube and tell your friends and family about this. Again, we don't just talk about sports. We talk about a lot of different topics. And again, we try to make you laugh. Our motto is we work hard on Sunday so you don't have to. We provide comedy and sports. So thank you all for tuning in today and following me throughout the week. The comments were amazing. Before we start the show, I want to wish a big happy birthday to my sister Cynthia. She turned 25 for the umpteenth time today. I don't know if she's watching right now, but my sister Cynthia, happy birthday. Hope you enjoy the day. Not a lot you can do with COVID-19. I understand there's a heat warning in places like Wisconsin and New York. I went bike riding this morning. It was so hot. But happy birthday to my sister Cynthia. We have a jam-packed show for you. We get you guests all across the country. In 15 minutes, fan favorite Jared Milligan will join us, and he will talk about the San Antonio Spurs and also the NFC West and the San Francisco 49ers. Listen, the 49ers are going through something that we see all the time here. They are going through changes. A lot of players, because they had success, they went to the Super Bowl, are either leaving or looking to get paid. One of the reasons why I absolutely love the Kansas City Chiefs next year is they won the Super Bowl and they returned 20 of their 22 starters. So Jared's going to talk to us about that. And also we have two Florida guys joining us. David Weissman is going to talk a little Mets baseball as the Major League Baseball season is about to start this week. He's also going to talk New York Ranger hockey. I'm a huge fan of the Rangers. You can see the mug up there on the top. And look, I even cloned the mug up top so I could have two Oregon Duck mugs. Some gourmet coffee there. And also a dose of Diener. You may have heard him on Fox Sports 640 AM in South Florida. Stephen Diener's going to join the show. Listen, I don't always agree with Stephen, but he is widely entertaining. He has strong opinions, and I am not a yes man on my show. I like to have people who challenge me, who give different opinions. So Stephen Diener is going to join us as well. And then finally, Rico Show Me the Money Graziano is going to join us. Rico and his good friend, Levi Chodorow, is going to talk fantasy football. My draft is actually in 3 weeks. Listen, if you want advice on fantasy football, if you want to try to win money, whether you're just a casual fan or someone who's really gets into it, you definitely want to check out these two gentlemen. And I use the term gentleman loosely. They live, breathe, and eat fantasy football 365 days a year. So you definitely want to get your notebook out. If you have friends who follow fantasy football, show them that segment later on in the week. But first, we start each show with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, I love this good, bad, and the ugly because we have the good, my Green Bay Packers, the bad, the Minnesota Vikings, the ugly, the Chicago Bears, and to my good friend Eric, I'm sorry, the Detroit Lions didn't even make the list in that division. That's how incompetent the Lions are. So the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, listen, in life, the theme for the good and the bad and the ugly is in life, you want to evolve. You don't want to be the same person you were at 20 that you are at 30. You don't want to be the same person you were at 30 that you are at 40, and so on and so on. You want to evolve. So one of the reasons why I had a huge problem with Rex Ryan was because Rex Ryan treated these press conferences like it was the 1970s. As a Jet coach and as a Buffalo Bills coach, he would say the same damn thing over and over again. We're going to punch you in the mouth. We're not going to back down. We're going to hit you hard. Yeah, we lost the game, but you know what? They knew they were in a fight. Rex, this isn't the UFC. This isn't a boxing match. Your teams didn't intimidate anyone. His last 6 years as a coach, he was 41 and 54, no playoff appearances. He never evolved. And this image that I have up here is perfect for Rex Ryan. He's running with no destination. He's screaming, and no one's listening to him because he's a blowhard. Rex Ryan never evolved. His coaching philosophy never evolved. So, okay, I'm just going to let people know right now. The theme for this show, anytime I talk about Rex Ryan, anytime I bring up Marcus Mariota, anytime Rico says a dumb cliche like at the end of the day, you know what you do? You have to take a drink. You have to take a drink. Yes, it's 11 o'clock, but it's happy hour somewhere. So Rex Ryan never evolved. Now, let's fast forward to New England. Bill Belichick came into the league as a defensive genius, right? He made his way as Bill Parcells' assistant. But over the last 5 years, Bill Belichick is number one in going for it on fourth down. He became an offensive-minded coach, even though he's a defensive genius. But we see Tom Brady now, right? He left New England, and it's almost like he broke free of prison. Tom Brady is golfing with Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, and Peyton Manning. He's having fun. He's enjoying himself. He's being funny. You're seeing a personality. Rob Gronkowski, the tight end for New England. Rob Gronkowski, the tight end for New England, said, we won in New England, but we didn't have fun. So what did New England do? And this is all part of evolving. They gave Cam Newton a hype video. Cam Newton, who hasn't played a snap for New England. Cam Newton, who, let's face it, coming off an injury, a lot of question marks. But the New England Patriots gave him his own hype video. So Bill Belichick is evolving. He understands social media is important. You're not just selling what's on the field, you're selling the brand. And up until this time, New England has never been a fun brand. Now, look, it doesn't matter to me because as long as my team wins, I don't want my coach to be Rex Ryan. You know, people said Rex Ryan, I want to have a beer with him. I don't want my president or the coach of my team to have a beer with. I want them to be smarter than me. So Bill Belichick right now is evolving. He's saying, first, we don't need a game manager anymore, which is what Rex Ryan, Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick all believe. But you get a talent, someone like Cam Newton, whose brand is all over social media. Look, whether you like Cam Newton or not, this is a huge step for evolution in the New England Patriots, letting him have a hype video. They would never do that 5 years ago, ever. Speaking of evolving, right? This is still part of the good. The NBA bubble. Now, we've seen players totally transform their body while they were in quarantine. Here's Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol lost 35 pounds. Look how lean he is. Look how good he is. And this is a veteran. This is not some young guy trying to prove himself. Marc Gasol is a legend overseas. And look how he transformed his body. Now, here's another one. Look at this. Okay, Nikolai Jokic lost about the same amount of weight as Marc Gasol with Denver. He's 25 years old. Look to the picture to the right of Nikolai Jokic. He looks like a 40-year-old who should be in a YMCA beer league. Right? I mean, just look at him. And look at the picture on the left. Look at the picture on the left. He looks like he's 15, 18. Look how young he looks. And finally, Zion Williamson, a 19-year-old. Look how jacked he is. Had a little, what they call baby fat. He is shredded. So that's the good. Players evolving, coaches evolving. Now, we're going to go to the bad. Remember, we start each show with the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, to the bad. Chris Middleton, pictured here, number 22, is the number 2 option for the Milwaukee Bucks behind Giannis Antetokounmpo, a.k.a. the Greek Freak, pictured on the right. They are trying to win a championship. They had the best record in the NBA before COVID-19. They had the number 1 plus differential rating, over 11 points per game. They were destroying teams. Chris Middleton, the guy on the left, is making $30 million per year. And you know what Chris Middleton said? He said he hadn't picked up a basketball in 4 months. Wait, what? Chris Middleton said he hadn't picked up a basketball in 4 months. Chris, do you know what I've done in 4 months? I'm going to tell you. I've written 40 articles. I've done over 30 podcasts. I started my own YouTube show. And me, Monte Perez, I lost 30 pounds in quarantine. 30 pounds. Look at the before and after picture. Look at the guns on that dude. Where's the gun show? Chris Middleton, $30 million a year man. $30 million a year. The guy on the left didn't pick up a basketball for 4 months. Now, I know my friend Andrea, who lives in Wisconsin, is upset about this because we talked about it the other day, and she was like, what is he doing? If Chris Middleton is the Robin to the Greek Freak's Batman, as soon as I heard this, if I was the Greek Freak, this is what I do to Chris Middleton. This is what I do to Chris Middleton. Are you kidding me? He packed it in. How do you pack it in, making $30 million a year, having the best record, being the number 2 option for a team that's trying to compete for a championship? Now, look, I know people, my friends, who have packed it in. We know coworkers who've packed it in. I'll never forget the time I had this woman who was an office assistant, and I was the office manager, and I had to give you her annual review. Now, there were 10 questions that she had to fill out, and she had to put down excellent, very good, average, below average, I don't know. All 10 questions she put, I don't know. Then for strengths, she put one word, texting. That was her job strength. And then for weaknesses, she put eczema. She put eczema as her weakness. Eczema is a condition where patches of skin become inflamed. Now, I never saw her have eczema on her face, on her arms. Her office, her desk was right outside my office. So unless she had diaper rash, she packed it in. She packed it in, and Chris Middleton, pictured right here, has packed it in. Now listen, Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to leave if they don't get to the NBA Finals. He's going to leave, and rightly so. Because when you're dedicated, look at these guys. Look at that. Look at the Joker, 25 years old. Look at Marc Gasol. Look at Zion Williamson, 19 years old. Dedicated during quarantine. Adversity hits, and they make the best of it. Look at this stud. Lost 30 pounds. So, you know, Chris Middleton, what the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing? Now, going on to the bad. Okay, so we get the good, the bad. We got one more bad, then we'll get to the ugly. Then we'll get Jared Milligan on. Listen, Lou Holtz went on, former Notre Dame coach, a guy who hasn't evolved in decades. Lou Holtz thinks he's living in the 70s. They got this fossil. I don't know where they dug him up out of, but he went on the Laura Ingraham show, and he said this: we need to have football. He goes, in this world, you can't do anything without risk. 18-year-olds stormed Normandy. They knew there was going to be casualties. They knew there was going to be risk, but it was a way of life. Lou, we're not at war. We're at war with a virus. That's the enemy right now, and the incompetence of certain leaders who don't do anything during this virus. Lou Holtz is basically saying, yeah, if kids die during in college football, that's just a casualty of war. Are you kidding me, Lou Holtz? You fossil, you out of touch troll. Then to make it worse, on social media, on Twitter, after Lou Holtz's appearance, we started to see SEC football ride or die. SEC football ride or die. Now, I hate that expression, ride or die. I hate it. Okay, I'll tell you a little story. My ex-girlfriend, I don't want to mention her name because, we got millions of fans watching the show. This is going all over the world. But we'll just call her, I don't know, Satan for short. Okay? My ex-girlfriend, Satan, used to tell me all the time that she was ride or die with me. I'm ride or die. And I used to tell her, don't tell me that because you're lying. You're not ride or die. So I broke up with her a few years ago, and she sent me an email on Facebook last month. And you can imagine my surprise because she told me she was ride or die. And we're not riding right now. So either she emailed me from hell, which would have been, which would have been okay since she was the devil. But ride or die, she's still alive. So she wasn't ride or die. And here's what I'll say. All you fans out there who say, I'm ride or die, if your team loses, you're not going to die. And if you say it feels like death, you need to get a life. You need to get a life. There's no such thing as ride or die fans because unless your team wins the Super Bowl every year, unless your team wins the national championship in college basketball, I'm a Duke fan, but I'm not ride or die. They lose, I don't die. End of story. And now finally to the ugly. We do the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, Washington Redskins owner, Daniel Snyder. I kind of compare him to James Dolan of the Knicks. He's an absolute disaster as an owner, a rich guy who took over a team and is totally out of touch. Let's just look how bad the Redskins have been. I mean, look at this, right? Look how bad the Redskins have been. They had Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and Matt LaFleur. Those were the people they had on their staff. And they hired Jay Gruden, who compiled a record of 35-49. Jay had one winning season as the Redskins coach. Sean McVay, pictured on the left, went to a Super Bowl 2 years ago. Kyle Shanahan in the middle, played for the coach for the San Francisco 49ers last year and lost the Super Bowl. And Matt LaFleur on the right, in his first year, took the Green Bay Packers to the NFC Championship game. And not just that. Look how attractive those guys are. They're like supermodels. So you whiffed on every account. Now, they got rid of their racist name, but they didn't replace it with anything. So they had a press conference basically saying, hey, we are not going to call ourselves this anymore, and there's no replacement. And finally, as if it couldn't get any worse, Thursday, a group of 15 female former employees had a thing where they accused top team executives of sexual harassment and verbal abuse in a damning report on the team's internal culture. Washington employees accused of the workplace misconduct include top player personnel executives Richard Mann III and Alex Santo, who were fired earlier this month. And how about this? Larry Michael, the team's play-by-play announcer, been there for decades, sexually harassing women. This went on from 2006 to 2019. Daniel Snyder should be forced to sell the team. The NFL could do this, so let's hope it's done. And there you have it. That was the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now we're going to bring on Jared Milligan. Jared, thanks so much for joining the full Monte Show. How are you today?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Jared, we can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Oh, now we can hear you. That's much better.
Okay.
Say something. Yeah, I can hear you fine now. So, Jared, what's so fun is that, when people heard that you were coming on the show, everyone was like, oh, I'm so glad he's the fan favorite. We love Jared. But if people saw the text message, and let me just preface by saying, Jared, good-looking guy, in shape, has a great job, has a beautiful 2-year-old daughter, has a beautiful wife. Jared is not your typical sports fan. He doesn't live in his mom's basement. But if you saw the text messages that he sends me during the games, you would think that Jared is is Patton Oswalt from the Big Fish. Now, for those of you who haven't seen this movie, this guy works, a Patton Oswalt character works in a parking garage. He lives in a one-bedroom apartment with his mother, and he only lives for Giant football. So that's who you are, Jared. You're fooling people.
I wasn't prepared for that. That was a pretty good low blow. You got me on there real quickly. But listen, don't act like those text messages are one way. I've had to talk you off a couple of bridges too. Okay, so let's not talk like it's a one-way street here.
No, you listen. Our text messages, if they ever went public, people would be like these guys are lunatics. But yeah, look, I got something for you right here. Before we get into the San Francisco 49ers, I want you to talk about this player right here, because to me, you could talk about the San Antonio Spurs, all their championship, the 5 champs they won. But to me, this was the most satisfying play I've ever seen in San Antonio Spurs history. Look, explain to people what that was right there.
Oh yeah, that was the old man using his smarts instead of his feet.
And who was that old man?
Manu Ginobili, baby.
And what does he do there to win the series?
Yeah, I mean, how Harden tries to do his little pirouettes and throws feet out, body out, and Manu knew that, so he stayed behind and blocked the ball instead of being. That's how smart he is of a player. And I've watched this for 15, 20 years. As you know, I've been a Spurs fan forever. The average player would have gotten on the side of Harden, and he would have got that leg and would have fouled him. Manu's so smart. He said, I'm going to stay behind because he knows he's going to kick his feet out. And,
block the shot and then win the series. I love that moment. And Jared, we have something else for you, just to make you feel a little bit at home. How do you like that, Jared?
There we go.
How do you like that? That annoys me to no end. That 49er background is making me nauseous.
I know you have your puke bucket next to you right now. Probably make you feel
Jared, let's get right into it. I think Greg Popovich is the greatest NBA coach of all time, but it's starting to look like he's falling into the trap of Bill Parcells, of Bobby Knight. We talked about evolving. Rex Ryan never evolved as a coach. His 2 biggest scorers, everyone talks about this. LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan don't shoot the 3-point shot well. DeRozan shoots 26%. Aldridge is a little better at 38%. But this is Popovich's mantra. He doesn't like the 3-point shot, so the players he has fits this system. Am I wrong in saying this?
Well, you're not wrong in the fact that, yes, we don't have a lot of 3-point shooters, and our best players clearly aren't 3-point shooters like that. And even when we got the DeRozan trade and we finalized it, I was happy to get someone, I guess, in return for Kawhi. But then as soon as a couple of days went by, and I started realizing how him and Aldridge are going to fit together on the floor. And I'm like, well, they take the same exact shots. They need the same exact space, and they don't stretch the floor. And it's really hard, like you said, to win in the NBA if you don't stretch the floor, for one. And for two, and both of the guys, I've said it 1,000 times, their heart pumps Kool-Aid. I don't think they're big-time players at all. I think they both shrink when it's under the limelight. So what is Pop supposed to do?
You're saying they're soft.
They're definitely soft.
All right, now here's the next question. Any truth to the rumor that Greg Popovich will join Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant in Brooklyn?
No. I don't see that happening at all. I mean, why would he do that? Yeah. It sounds good on, the social media platforms and to get people talking and everything. But, Pop's in his 70s. He's got a legacy over there. He's got a dynasty. He loves the people of San Antonio. I'm sure he still loves the team, obviously. To get up and ask a 73-year-old guy in the midst of all what's going on in the world to move halfway across the country to go coach players who, especially someone like Kyrie Irving, not everybody's cup of tea. Why would he risk all that? I don't see that happening personally. He don't care about the money. He has enough money. What's he going to do with it?
All right. So real quick, Jared, before we talk about the NFC West and your San Francisco 49ers, give us the NBA final matchup.
Oh, I have the Clippers in there for sure. Clippers, and I'm leaning toward the Celtics. I think it's Clippers Celtics is my biggest possibility. But I like the Celtics. Yeah.
No, I like the Celtics. I love their coach. I said this in last week's show. Enes Kanter was on a talk show, and he said they were one of the few teams that twice a week they would get together, all the players with the trainer on the computer and just work out. Like he would walk them through stretching and all this stuff. All right, so let's talk about the NFL. We obviously have the San Francisco 49ers up there. First off, what division will be the worst division in the NFL, and what division is going to be the toughest?
Worst division, I'd stay within your division, probably in the AFC East. Listen, until someone shows some life, until someone breaks some kind of ground there, you got to think they're the worst division in football. And then obviously, your best team in that division lost one of the best players in the last 20 years. So I got to say they're going to be, pulling up the rear there. And as far as the best division, this is not even a discussion. It's clearly the NFC West, and I think everybody knows that. If you don't know that, then you probably don't know football, because
Jared,
this division is loaded.
It's loaded, and I'm going to say this. I said it last week. Jimmy Garoppolo could be the fourth best quarterback by the end of the year next year in that division.
You said that. I disagree with that. until my namesake, until he leaves, he's not going to be the fourth best quarterback in the division.
So you think Jared Goff is the fourth best?
Clearly.
I know you're high on. I know you're high on Kyler Murray.
Yeah. No, listen, he's listen. I watched him play a couple times last year, obviously, and I have Red Zone and I have the package. So I've watched a few of their games anyway, and he's definitely impressive, man. And I think they're going to make some noise this year. I think they have I don't know if they can win the division. You got some juggernauts within the division, but I think they definitely make some trouble for those other veteran teams, and he's going to have a great year. I think under one more year under that air raid, and obviously adding Hopkins and I think Drake was an awesome addition to when he went over there as well. They're going to be really good. They're going to be fun to watch. They're going to put up a lot of points. I don't know how great their defense got.
Well, listen, let's break down this division. I think the Cardinals had one of the best offseason, but I think they're the fourth best team. I think listen, McVay didn't just not know how to coach. I mean, we saw the opening. McVay knows how to coach. You obviously have Seattle. If they pick up Antonio Brown, Jared, am I going to have to put a camera on the George Washington Bridge if Seattle gets Antonio Brown, or if they re-sign Clowney?
Yeah, well, either way, you're going to definitely get some text messages that we can't run on air. That's for sure. I think you already know that.
So where do you think those guys end up? Brown and Clowney.
I think Clowney does re-sign. I mean, I don't see him going anywhere else. He's been offered some okay money, but he wants obviously like Aaron Donald money. Like, you're not Aaron Donald, bud. You can't stay healthy. And your Pro Bowl year, you had like 3-4 sacks or whatever it was, and you're supposed to be a dominant D end, and you want $20 million a year, then you got to produce 15 plus sacks, and he hasn't done that. So I think he's going to sign for them for cheap. As for Antonio Brown, who knows? This guy, he's crazy. Who the hell knows where he ends up? Like, he's obviously a generational talent, but you never know, for one, if he's going to be able to play in the NFL again, if they lift his ban or whatever they have to do throughout all those allegations. And I don't know. Where's his head at? Not his helmet.
I said it all the time. I give total credit in the world to Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah,
because he kept Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. And what's so disturbing is, I saw a former Pittsburgh Steeler player say that all the stories that if the stories came out on how the coaching staff, hid stuff about Antonio Brown, after 6-7 years, they were just exhausted. They were just like, enough.
Can you imagine?
We've all been. It's like an abusive relationship. We have someone in the White House right now for 3 years. Whether you like him or not, it's exhausting. Yeah. It's exhausting. And Antonio Brown was exhausting. So, Jared, the fans love you getting all the comments. Break us down. Give us a record for each team in the NFC West.
We'll go bottom to top, how I think it's going to shake out. So I think the Cardinals go 7-9. I think the Rams go 8-8, and I think the Seahawks go 9-7, and I think the Niners go 11-5.
So if I were to tell you the Niners 10.5 wins, you're taking the over.
I'm going to take the over as of today. Yeah, I feel a little more confident, I guess, looking at some things. And hold on, we might have to make sure we re-sign George Kittle first. Well,
I was going to ask you that.
That number goes from 10.5 to about 7.5 if we don't have him on the team.
I remember what's the guy's name when I text you? He was on national TV after like week 10. He's like, George Kittle's not a great blocker.
Oh yeah, Doug Gottlieb.
I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what are you watching? But Jared, here's the thing. I opened up with, and I said this in the opening rant, the San Francisco 49ers, I know you don't like the Chiefs to win it next year, but they returned 20 of their 22 starters. San Francisco guys are leaving. They're looking to get paid. Look, if I'm San Francisco, I give a tight end, George Kittle, I give him 14, 15 million a year.
Yeah, I agree.
But they're not going to give him that money, are they?
I mean, I don't know why they haven't. They definitely should, and he's definitely worth it. I know it's so strange, man, how the NFL goes by markets. And, you look at the tight end market. Austin Hooper makes, $10.5 million a year, and he's at the top of that market. But then you look at some of the receivers who make the same amount of money in the NFL, you're like, how the hell does Robbie Anderson make more money than Travis Kelce? And, why is George Kittle having such a hard time getting a $14, $15 million contract when there's players? I mean, Larry Fitzgerald's great, don't get me wrong. He's 117 years old. He's making $13, $14 million a year. You're telling me you'd rather have George Kittle or Larry Fitzgerald on your team right now, or George Kittle or Robbie Anderson or any of those average receivers? Like, it's crazy how it's set up like that. And I understand where he's coming from, but you also got to understand where where the Niners come from. That's how the NFL is set up. So if they could take advantage of that money situation, they're going to extend it as much as possible. I think ultimately they're going to come to a deal between 14 and 15.
So final question, Jared. This is what the NFL is. The wide receivers get paid, the quarterbacks get paid. Le'Veon Bell got paid. You're looking at what's happened over the last 5 years. You see Travis Kelce. You see the tight end in Baltimore. You see tight ends in cold weather. Rob Gronkowski. Mm-hmm. They dominate in the playoffs. They dominate when the weather is cold. So why don't tight ends get paid? And how do you see this playing out with Kittle's? Would you give him a 4-year, $60 million contract worth $15 million a year?
I would easily. I mean, to me personally, because I see what the guy does day in and day out. I mean, he's not only a great receiving tight end, obviously you saw that, but he's also the best blocking tight end, and he's a great leader. He's infectious. He's what the guys want to be around. You need that, especially if you're going to have a season with no fans. You need someone to pump you the hell up. I mean, it's going to be really weird as it is, and if you don't have that energy level that's going to be needed, I mean, you're going to see a lot of lackadaisical things and errors. I think if there's no fans in the stands, you need someone who's going to be out there and pump you up and get the team going. Ultimately, I see them coming to terms with a deal that they're both happy with, and him busting the tight end market. And obviously, someone like Kelce is going to be keeping an eye on that. And
of course,
he's going to, the next following when his contract's up, probably going to eclipse that even more. I think that's fair. If some of these guys are catching 100 balls a year and 1,500 yards, and they're blocking, and they're putting their body on the line. Why not get him paid? It's not fair.
It's ridiculous how tight ends are paid. To me, he's the best tight end in football, hands down. I love the kid from Baltimore. Obviously, Travis Kelce. Ernst in Philadelphia is amazing too. So, I agree with you there. Jared, I want to thank you for coming on. Definitely have you on once training camp starts. And listen, I hope the San Francisco 49ers get their players signed, because as of now, I don't know who your number one wide receiver is.
Well, yeah, you don't hope they get signed. You actually hope.
You're right. I can't stand the 49ers.
Exactly. Don't act like you care if we get re-signed, who gets there,
listen,
who goes
I
there.
did this as long as I could. I couldn't put the 49ers stuff on there. Jared, thanks so much for coming on. The fans really love you. And can you please be a little more active on Twitter? That's all I'm asking you.
I don't even, real quickly, when you sent me, you're like, I sent you Twitter email. I didn't even know what the hell that was. I had to go to my office, to the young kids. I'm like, there's an email on Twitter? I had no idea, so I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
The show, it's about evolving. You have to evolve,
man.
Okay, all right, man.
I'm here, right?
For those of you who don't know, I coached Jared in college. I made him the basketball player and the man he is today. So I will once again have to carry you one more time.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Jared. Love having you on. That was Jared Milligan. When we come back, we're going to have David Weissman join us. He's going to talk about the New York Rangers and the New York Mets. You're listening to the full Monte Sports Show. We work hard on Sunday, so you don't have to. David, thanks so much for joining the show. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Listen, David, I want to play something right here. Um, we're hearing a little background on your thing. Do you hear that echo there?
Not at all.
Okay, maybe it's just on my end, but I want to show you this. Most people think of the Rangers and they think of this: Mark Messier, Stanley Cup, great moment. But when I think of the Rangers, and it breaks my heart to see this, that is Henrik Lundqvist, Game 5 against the LA Kings, losing in overtime. And what was so sad about this is after they lost, I said to myself, I feel so bad for Henrik Lundqvist. I feel so bad for him. But then I'm like, why do I feel bad for this guy? He's a supermodel. He's married to a supermodel. He's worth $40 million. Talk about that moment when the Rangers went to the Cup and they lost it, because let's be honest, it's been few and far between Cup runs for the Rangers.
Yeah, it was definitely a sad moment. It was very, very close. I mean, like I said, like when people think of the Rangers, they think of Mark Messier, Brian Leach, Mike Richter, all those guys, and seeing that, it's kind of a sad moment. We hope to have broken our own curse that year. So.
Listen, it was. My parents were out in LA. They went to a sports bar every week. I mean, every game to watch that show, surrounded by Kings fans. So it wasn't a good moment for them. Let's talk about the Rangers here. David Quinn had a very good career coaching Boston University, 105 and 67 and 21. Talk about what you like about him as a Ranger coach and what you don't like.
I do like the offense. I know before him, I've seen how the Rangers played. To me, it always seemed like they always went until they shot the puck, trying to get the goals in. But from what I've seen now, it looks like they have becoming more of an offensive lately, and I think that's good. Because yes, defense wins the game, but so does a good offense as well.
Yeah, listen, I was very happy when they signed him. A young coach, different philosophy. I'm not a big fan of retreads, coaches who've been in the league for years and then rehire them. So I was happy with Quinn. I like what he's doing. John Davidson was named the Ranger president in 2019. He's a former goalie for the Rangers. What do you like his mentality and what he brought to the New York Rangers so far?
What I like about him, he has experience in the rink, nice rink. He knows how the game is played. So that definitely adds a lot to when making the right decisions and how to manage a team. So, it's going to take a little time. He just got in, 2019, but I think, over time he's going to help build the Rangers and get the team where they need to be to, win some games and win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, listen, I think John Davidson is going to do a great job. I think Dan Quinn is going to do a great job. So the Rangers play the Carolina Panthers. Both teams are relatively young. The average age for the Rangers is 25. For the Hurricanes is 26. Talk about how you feel about this matchup and who do you like coming out on top?
It's going to be very close, I think. It's going to be, I guess, going to be possibly 1-1 game, series. It can go either way. I do think, I'm hoping that the Rangers will come on top. And, it's very possible in this kind of stand defense and, get the goals, shoot the goals. So, but, I think it's very possible that the Rangers can win the series.
Yeah, I give them a good shot. The Rangers are young. Now, the question is, I posted a picture here. Do you start Henrik Lundqvist? Or do you start one of the young goalies? Obviously, Henrik Lundqvist is the veteran. He's been to the Cup. He's been to playoff wars. Who do you start?
Well, I'm thinking starting the goalie Igor. I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name. Sherzern.
Yeah, it's hard to pronounce. Yeah.
He has a very good record. He's hot. He's doing a very good job. Behind the net. or so I think they should start him. He's had a good winning streak, and they kind of get the younger guys out there more so they can have that experience. I think
So,
Henry's time is maybe possibly coming to an end. But he's getting up there in age, and it's time to get the younger players playing.
all right, David, real quick, give us the winner of this. We're getting a really bad echo. I see people tweeting all over the place. So just give us a prediction for this series and who wins.
I think it's gonna, the Rangers gonna take the series by one game. It's not gonna be a sweep. It's gonna be a back and forth series, but I think the Rangers will win it.
Does the series go long, or will it be 6, 7 games, or shorter than that?
It will go long.
So you're saying 6 or 7 Rangers win?
Correct. 6, 7 Rangers. Yeah.
All right, David, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, we have a really bad echo, but we'll definitely have you on again to talk Mets and talk New York Rangers. And again, your prediction is 6 wins. In 6 games, the Rangers win the series.
Yes. I appreciate
Thanks
you
so
having
much.
me on.
Thanks so much. Take care. Listen, guys, sorry about that. We had a little bit of an echo there. This happens sometimes. We've done practice shows. We do it before the week. So sorry about that. But, he brings up some good points. Again, I posted this picture, and it's really funny because I told the story. My parents were in LA when this happened. They went to every game in this series at a sports bar in LA. So they were dealing with LA Kings fan. And this is such a heartbreaking picture for me because 3 of the 5 games, the Rangers lost that series in 5 games. 3 of the 5 games went to overtime, and the clinching game was this one right here. And you look at Henrik Lundqvist, right? He's down. This is a guy who's been with the Rangers for decades. He's one of the most favorite Rangers of all time. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I wasn't sleeping because they lost, and I felt so bad for him. But then in the middle of the night, I said, what do I feel bad? Look how good looking this guy is. Look how good looking he is. This is the guy I felt bad for. I mean, he's worth millions of dollars. He has a supermodel wife, so, listen, I didn't feel bad for him after a while, but I want to thank David Weissman again. That's not his fault with the echo, just some technical difficulties. It happens sometimes. We're still trying to work out our kinks here on the show. In a couple of minutes, we're going to have Steven Diener join us. And listen, the NBA bubble right now, what is happening with the NBA bubble? We're seeing people, I posted a picture before of Zion Williamson, right? Zion Williamson went to the bubble, and then he said he had to leave. He had to leave for a family emergency. Montrezl Harrell, the basically 6th man of the year, besides Lou Williams, Jared talked about the LA Clippers. He left the bubble before a family emergency. And I'm wondering if they're leaving for legitimate emergencies or they're just leaving because they're like, I don't want to be, kept in a bubble. I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy because let's face it, it's 2 months that they're in the bubble. We've all been quarantined for 4 months. And again, I'll show these pictures one more time before we get Steven Diener on. Look at what these guys have done during the bubble. Look at what they've done, right? Look at what this guy has done during the bubble. Lost 30 pounds. I'm a badass. So we're seeing now all these situations with the bubble, and Dwight Howard wasn't wearing a mask. He said it's not a big deal. I ride my bike 7 days a week, and today was the first time in Florida that I saw about 60% of the people wearing a mask. So maybe the message is finally getting across. We're going to bring on Steven Diener now. You've seen him, actually heard him, A Dose of Diener on South Florida 640. Steve, I started the show by saying I don't always agree with you, but your passion is something I love. How are you today?
Doing well, buddy. How are you? I appreciate that. And hey, listen, a lot of people don't agree with me, but just as long as you enjoy it, and that's all that matters.
Listen, Steve, I start every time a guest comes on the show, I want to put them in a good mood. So I want you to watch this video that I have for you and describe to fans who may not know what this is and what this meant to you right here.
Oh yeah, I could watch this all day. Game 6 against the Spurs, 2013. Probably the greatest sporting moment of my entire life, to be honest with you. When Ray Allen hit that shot.
Really?
I mean, I remember everything about it, where I was, my reaction to it. I mean, I remember I fell over and knocked over a cup of applesauce that my niece was eating.
So you were so excited you abused your niece.
Yeah, she was very upset about her applesauce. It was, I mean, I'll never forget that. And of course, Bosch's block to end the game, and then they go on to win Game 7 and repeat as champions. That was, I'm telling you, probably the greatest sporting moment of my life.
Wow. So I picked a good one.
You did. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Here you go. I'll give it to you one more time, Steve.
Oh yeah, look at that.
There you go. Ray Allen, huge shot. Look at the cloud of white in the stands, saving the series, and they go on to win it. That's great. So, Steve, I'm going to add one more thing to you. A lot of people don't like this, but I'm a huge Miami Vice fan with Don Johnson, so I love the new Miami Heat, the background. What do you think of that?
I love that too, actually. I was just recently looking for a nice powder blue Miami Vice Heat shirt on Amazon, and it's hard to find, actually. I was going to the Miami Heat store. I'm very particular with my sports apparel, so I got to still find a good one that I like. I love that theme that they have going, though. It's great.
I know you're a big college football fan like myself, so I'm just going to show you my beautiful Oregon Duck mug.
There you go.
Love it. Love that. All right, Steve, so let's talk about the bubble. I think it's going exactly as planned. The bubble, I mean, we saw Sacramento Kings forward Rashawn Holmes placed in quarantine after he left, and he didn't even go out to get a steak dinner. I think he went out to get it wasn't Chick-fil-A, a Panda Express. So you're breaking it to get Panda Express. Talk about the bubble. What do you expect? What's going on?
Man, listen. Well, for one, if it was Chick-fil-A, I can understand breaking the quarantine. Panda Express, come on, man. No, look, it's so far so good. The only thing that concerns me, I'd say the main concern is, listen, they're all men. I spoke to this earlier in the week on my Dose of Diener there on Fox Sports 640. And one of the concerns that popped up was some of these guys hitting up their Instagram model friends.
Their mistresses.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. On social media. And a couple of them actually saying on Twitter, yeah, I've been to the bubble already. And you're like, what are you doing? Come on, guys. We're waiting for this. You're waiting for this. We're all waiting for this for 4 months. And you throw it away for, a night here or there. Just contain yourself for a little while. That's my main concern with the bubble right now.
My main concern is it's 2 months. It's 2 months. Yeah. Like, come on, man. Like, I posted this earlier, and this is my next question. Am I wrong in saying this? Chris Middleton, pictured here on the left, hasn't picked up a basketball in 4 months, right? And I posted this. Look at this before and after quarantine. Look at this before and after quarantine. Look at me before and after quarantine, right? I mean, I lost 30 pounds in quarantine. Look at me.
Fantastic. Look at that.
Look at me. 30 pounds. What is Chris Middleton doing, Steven? He hasn't picked up a basketball in 4 months. Am I overreacting thinking about this?
No, you're not at all. Okay. Let's put this into perspective. He's a professional basketball player.
He's getting $30 million a year.
Yes. That is his job, is to be good at basketball. And if you're just within these past 4 months when you're not playing, think, I'm good. I'm not going to practice. I'm not going to stay in shape. I'm not going to be ready to go once we do come back. Dude, what are you doing? Like, was Call of Duty that important to you that you can't pick up a basketball and practice for a little while? I mean, you have a hoop at your home. I'm sure you do. I mean, yeah, that's absurd. I'm sorry. I mean,
listen, even if he doesn't have a basketball court, like I heard an interview with Danny Green. Danny Green rented a condo last year in Toronto. He's renting a condo here in LA. He doesn't have a basketball, but he he paid people to, hey, open the gym so I could get some shots up. Danny Green was like, I'm on Amazon like the rest of you trying to get fitness equipment. You're making
Right.
$30 million. You're the number 2 option in Milwaukee, and you don't pick up a basketball for 4 months?
I think he needs to get with you, Monty, on some of the nutrition plans. It sounds like so. Maybe that'll
Thank you,
help him
Steven.
out.
Thank you.
It's
I
why-
appreciate
yeah,
that. No, and listen, I said this. I've been saying this for months, and people think I'm crazy. If the Bucks don't get to the finals, Giannis is out. He is out.
Wow.
And listen, I really believe that because and I'll post this so you could probably get a laugh at this, but this is true. He's Batman. Middleton is Robin. If my Robin didn't work out for 4 months during quarantine, this is what I do to him.
Yes.
Am I wrong,
100%.
Steve? Am I wrong?
No, not at all. Think of it this way. Think about with LeBron and Wade, right? Which I can't believe that's 9-10 years ago now when they came together. So think about if this happened in 2010 or 2011 and Dwayne Wade, he never would have done this, but say he decided to just forget about basketball for 4 months and stay out of shape and eat and do all these different things and not be in basketball shape. Could you imagine what LeBron James would have said to him or what he would have done? I mean, that's just like the Bucks are now. They are the favorite in the East, like the Heat were during the Big Three era. So it's honestly unfathomable to me how you can even get into that mindset of not staying in shape when you are a professional basketball player and the favorite in your conference to win it all.
Dwayne Wade is a huge icon in Miami and South Florida. He said some stupid things this week. And, I'm going to look at it like Drew Brees. Like, you say something stupid, it's tone deaf. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
going to – I know you went off on Dwayne Wade a little bit, but I'm not
Yeah.
going to judge him for one mistake. Do you regret saying what you said about the legend?
No, and
Do you
I
look at him
think I
like
was a
Drew
little-
Brees, though? Do you look at it like, okay, you were tone deaf, you made a mistake. Drew Brees was sticking up for white people. Dwayne Wade is sticking up for an African American. They were both wrong.
Yeah, I think two different situations. I mean, Drew Brees' stance was, again, it was tone deaf in his situation because he was making the stance of, I'm an American, I want to stand for the national anthem, but he lost how it kind of correlated to the message that the Black Lives Matter movement was putting out by kneeling during the national anthem. So that was his mistake. Dwayne Wade's mistake was he got mixed up in the message of Black Lives Matter and didn't see what Nick Cannon was actually saying in his anti-Semitic and racist comments. So they were both mistakes. You can forgive both guys. I'm not holding Drew Brees, against him in his kind of tone deaf moment. Although, I get what he's saying. He's standing for the national anthem. And I'm not holding against Dwayne Wade because he's trying to stand up for his movement as well. But he kind of didn't realize what
he
Nick
lost the
Cannon actually
message.
said,
No, he lost the message. All right, let's move on. I want to talk about the Miami Heat. I don't give a lot of credit to lists, especially when ESPN comes out. It doesn't matter who has a list, whether it's Bleacher Report, whether I have a list. I mean, it's so funny when I put a top 10 list up and people attack me on social media like crazy. And I'm like, you understand it's my opinion, right? Like, it's my opinion. But I give credit to this list. Jimmy Butler is ranked the 9th best player in the bubble. You've talked about his leadership. He had problems in Chicago. He had problems in Minnesota. I was shocked he left a talented group in Philadelphia. But Jimmy Butler has matured, and I think a lot of it has to do with Udonis Haslem on the bench and maybe Eric Spoelstra. Talk about the maturization process and how good of a basketball player Jimmy Butler has become on and off the court.
Yeah, I think his 9 ranking actually fits. And some people would look at that and say, well, I can name 10 other guys better than Jimmy Butler. Maybe you could. But I think this was actually a smart placing because he brings so much more to the team than just scoring. I mean, you look at when the Heat were playing their best, Jimmy Butler typically was not the leading scorer in the game. He has just so many different intangibles. And I think the reason why he's been able to mature the way he has, I think it goes back to what Dwayne Wade was saying when he was recruiting Jimmy Butler to come here, even after Wade was retiring, because he realized Jimmy would be the perfect guy for the Heat culture. And, you always hear that and it kind of sounds cliche now, the Heat life or the Heat culture. But it's true. He really fits into that kind of hardworking, no-nonsense mentality. putting the nose to the grindstone, any cliche you want to throw out there. He fits into that.
Wait, Steve,
type of
I got to interrupt
environment.
you because anytime we say a bad cliche, the people listening got to do a shot or they got to drink.
I'm
I have
getting some people wasted on this Sunday morning. That's for
Listen,
sure.
it's happy hour somewhere. I have a guest coming on, Rico Show Me the Money Graziano and Levi Shadoroff are coming up next. And Rico always says, at the end of the day, and to me, it's the laziest cliche in sports. So anytime he says that, anytime I go off on Rex Ryan or bring up Marcus Mariota, so we have a ton of drinking games here. So you
I
just
love
use the cliche. Listen,
That's
I
right.
want to talk about, for someone who doesn't, fans who don't watch the Miami Heat every day and they know Jimmy Butler, they may know, a couple of their players. Talk about the unsung heroes of this team. I think we said it earlier on my podcast a few weeks ago that Bam Adebayo could be the MVP. He's a perfect stretch four if he just develops a three-point shot. He's averaging 16 points, double-digit rebounds, 4 or 5 assists. Talk about the unsung heroes on this team or players off the radar that they may not know if they're just a casual NBA fan.
Yeah, two guys come to mind, actually. One of them is recovering right now from the coronavirus, and Kendrick Nunn, and I'm really looking forward to him getting back to the team. He brings a lot to that lineup. He plays great. He plays great with Jimmy Butler, with Bam, with Goran Dragic. Some people forget about Goran Dragic, too, because he comes off the bench now, and I think that role serves him really well. But another guy I want to mention is Duncan Robinson. If you haven't been watching Duncan Robinson on social media this past week, we now know that he's a beer chugging champion because he's been doing the shotgun beer challenge. He did it by himself. Then he challenged a couple of guys to it. The Grand Floridian has just been crazy this week when it comes to all that. Yeah, that's pretty much what they've been doing. But something else he's really good at is 3-pointers. He is, if you remember guys like, you showed Ray Allen before, how instrumental different guys on the Miami Heat have been in their past championship runs. And the 3-point shot, Mike Miller comes to mind. Duncan Robinson is that type of player, but he can also play really well inside the perimeter, under the basket. He's a really important piece of this team. He's a perfect type of playoff role player. Fits great into what Miami Heat have done before in the past when they've won titles.
One of my favorite players of all time was Shane Battier, instrumental, hitting 6 threes in Game Saturday. But he's a typical playoff guy. Doesn't need the ball. Okay, will play defense every possession. And when you need a big three, obviously the player you're talking about is a lot more skilled offensively. And you're saying he did the chug beer challenge by himself.
So he for some reason, I don't really know how it came about. People started talking trash to him that they could chug beer better than he does. So he's like, I'll prove it to you. He's in his room, shotguns a beer, a can of beer. And I've never seen anything like it. Just throws it down in like 2 seconds.
Tremendous.
I'm telling
Tremendous.
you, it's really impressive. And
all right.
People started challenging him within the bubble. He just destroyed all competition. It's really quite something.
So Eric Spoelstra, the Miami Heat head coach, credited Andre Iguodala's 5-year championship run in the Bay Area for the veterans' presence in Miami. We know they have leaders, but he said he has the ultimate respect. He added from day one when he walked into our locker room because of everything that he has been a part of in the last 5 years with Golden State. He carries himself with great class. He exudes experience. Players listen to him. How was he able to change the mindset of that organization who had a ton of leaders already?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And that's another guy you can mention too is Iggy. People forget. It feels like forever ago that Iggy played for the 76ers, doesn't it? It feels like a lifetime ago. You forget how long he's been in the league. But that's another thing I think, and get ready to do the shots, it speaks to Heat culture. Because you come in to this team, and even though you had maybe a different mindset on a different team, now you come in and you start to just kind of mesh and you start to gel. And I think Spo is right in saying that his background with Golden State, with that championship pedigree, playing under Steve Kerr, playing with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and all those guys, it's just another one of those puzzle pieces that fit great for this team. And again, kudos to Pat Riley, Mickey Harrison, all those guys who are in charge. And finding another piece that they felt was going to fit, and he's fit great with this team. He's not gonna go out and score 30 points, Monte. We all know that, but he's a great locker room guy, and he is a guy that can play great defense and get you a spark when maybe you might be down and come off the bench and do those little things.
You know, it's amazing because there's always a question about chemistry, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
always say this: you can never have too many leaders. The one year that the Knicks were successful under James Dolan is when
Mm.
Chauncey Billups, Rasheed Wallace, who matured. I'll never forget the story. The one of the first road trips, they go out to dinner. Chauncey Billups pays for the whole team, and then Carmelo and J.R. Smith are like, "Yeah, we're going to the club." He goes, "No, we're not." He goes, "Everyone's
Mm.
going to the hotel room. We got a game tomorrow." Like you cannot have enough leaders in a locker room. People are always like, "Oh, who's?" When you have 5 leaders in the locker room and 5 guys are all doing the right thing, that can
Right.
only help, especially with the Heat that have a ton of young players, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, to add someone like Iggy with Haslam, you know, who's
Yeah,
almost like, and I'm
player
not saying this with
coach,
any disrespect, but he's like a player coach at this point.
right?
And he can still play, but he really is a huge part of that team when it comes to maintaining that culture and maintaining the mindset and doing the right things. And that's why I know we're going to talk about this a little bit, but I do think the Heat could be a sleeper in the Eastern Conference once we start playing games because they have the right mindset right now.
So let's talk. You made a great point a few weeks ago when I was doing a podcast, and you said that I give all the advantage to the older teams
Mm.
coming into the bubble. And we look at the Miami Heat, they struggled on the road. I know the Philadelphia 76ers were 27-2 at home. They struggled on the road against a younger team. But you said, hey, they're in Orlando. It's not like they had to leave the state. So give us
Right.
your prediction for the Eastern Conference and Western Conference finals.
Well, I mentioned it a little bit. Miami is a sleeper, and I think I've had some time to think about this, and I really do believe the Miami Heat will make the Eastern Conference Finals for a lot of the reasons that we mentioned. You know, when it comes to the culture, when it comes to putting your nose to the grindstone, so to speak, and just being able to say, okay, we have a mission, we have a goal, we're focused on that, and we know what we need to do to get the job done. Listen, they have these coaches there that know how to win championships. Not a lot of teams in the NBA in the bubble right now can say that we have a staff that knows how to win a title. The Miami Heat are one of those teams, and they know what it takes to have the right mindset and the right, conditioning, physicality, everything to get into what you need to get into to win a title. And this is new for everybody when it comes to this situation like this. So even with the young players, they still do have the veteran leadership. And I think these young guys are young enough to not realize, to not think, oh, you know what? We're not sure how to handle this because they're just going to go out and play. So I say Miami and Milwaukee in the East, and all bets are off from there once they get to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah,
And
listen, you bring up a great point. You look at the Spurs. The Spurs aren't going to make a run. Golden State's not even there. You look at the
mm-hmm,
teams who won a championship. So there's not a lot of coaches. Greg Popovich is not going to do anything in the bubble. They're not going to make the playoffs. You look at
right,
Steve Kerr. He's not going to make the playoffs. And you look at in the East, the favorite right here. The guy on the left didn't pick up a basketball for 4 months.
right,
So what the hell are you doing?
yeah,
It's wide
yeah.
open.
No, it is. It really is. And I think another thing that's wide open is the West. The Lakers. I mean, that's the easy pick, and they have LeBron
Losing
James
Avery
and Anthony
Bradley really
Davis.
hurts. He's
It
like a Shane
does.
Battier. He's
Yeah.
a
No,
perfect
you're right.
LeBron guy. Doesn't need the ball. When they beat the Clippers, he had 6 threes in the game. He plays defense. I understand. Listen, he has a young son who has respiratory lung problems. So I understand him not going to the bubble. But that's a tremendous loss for the Lakers.
It is. No, it is. I do think though that they still have enough with their two main guys in Anthony Davis and LeBron James to get the job done in the West. When it comes to NBA playoffs, the most talented team normally ends up winning. And I think in most cases, that's going to be the Lakers to at least get to the conference finals. Outside of that, Monty, I really think it's wide open between a few teams. I think you have the Clippers, of course, with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. I mean, you can't go wrong there. You have the Nuggets, who I think people lose, sight of the fact that they're number 3 seed in the West right now. And Jokic is coming back. He's not there yet, but he will be back. And the sleeper team to watch out for, I'm telling you, I would not be surprised to see the Houston Rockets sneak in there from the 6th seed right now and end up going against the Lakers. Because with Russell Westbrook and James Harden, if they can get right together on that team, This is such a unique situation where these guys are just going to go right into playing, and it could favor a team like that where you have two guys who are so familiar playing with each other. Watch out for the Houston Rockets. I think they have a shot to make it to the conference finals.
The only problem I have with them is I agree with everything you're saying, but Mike D'Antoni does not coach defense. So that's my only problem. Late in the game, you got to make stops. And right. I don't know if they have it. Steven, thanks so much for joining us. How can we support you and listen to A Dose of Diener, which I listen to at least 3 to 4 times a week?
I appreciate it. And if you want to do that too, it's on Fox Sports 640, on the AM stations there, 640. And 12:55 every day. You can catch it. It's just a quick few minutes, kind of like this, but in a condensed version where I just, kind of give my hard opinion there.
I give you a lot more time. Minutes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right, exactly.
All right, Steve, I'm going to close with this for you so you could leave on a positive.
There we go. Gosh, it never gets old. What a rebound by Bosch.
What a great play by Bosch. People don't remember LeBron James missed the 3 to tie it.
That's right.
That's right.
He also, hit one just before that.
Also, Tim Duncan was not in the game. Greg Popovich took him out.
That's true, too. Look at that Kawhi Leonard right there and Tony Parker. Gosh, just one of the best moments in sports history. I'm sorry, but it is.
It's sports history. It's sports.
I'm not biased at all.
Spoken like a true Florida fan. Steve, thanks so much. Love having you on. We'll have you again down the road.
Sounds good. Thanks, Monte.
All right, thanks so much. That was Steven Diener. Right. Does a tremendous job. Obviously, does a tremendous job covering Miami sports. We're gonna bring on Levi and Rico. It almost sounds like a oh no, Rico. Rico, is that your background now?
Yeah, I love it.
Wow, Rico, that is the background you went with 2 weeks in a row. Look what I put up, Rico.
It's too nice. Just get used to it. I'm using it all year. That's gonna be.
What is that? What is that third picture in the background?
Well, I have Melissa made me put up something nicer. It's a Game of Thrones piece of artwork of the dragons and whatnot.
Wow.
With Daenerys.
Wow. Okay, Levi, I'm going to put up something for you to make you feel at home. How do you like that? Little Buffalo Bills. You like that right there? Little Bills right there?
Thank you. I feel right at home.
All right. Now, you guys are fantasy football gurus. And when people, Levi, you've been on my show. Rico, you've been on my show. When I talk about you guys, people picture this, like two manly men who are just football guys. They love football, but in reality, this is who you are. This is who you are, right? Just crunching numbers, crunching data. Levi, start us off. How much time do you spend talking to Rico about fantasy football?
Way too much. That's pretty much the only thing we actually talk about. But there's always more to talk about.
Yeah, we really want to have a deeper relationship, but we just can't get past the 3 hours of fantasy football talk year round. This is not something, because then you have the NFL draft that comes up, and there's a lot of analyzing going on, and who's just a stud from duds, and it's a very tough. I mean, I just want to say I'm still very excited that I saw the greatest play in NBA history a few months ago.
Steven Diener. Yeah.
One of the greatest plays of sports history, he actually said. I just want to let everyone know that I didn't NBA. That point.
No, it was hilarious. I listen to him on Fox Sports. He does the updates, does a tremendous job. But Levi, let's just write this. Before we get into fantasy football, I want to ask you this question, and do you think I'm crazy for saying this? I saw earlier this week that the New England Patriots did a hype video for Cam Newton. But I'm going to say this right now. Is it possible that Cam Newton, by the end of the year, is the 4th best quarterback in the AFC East? Your thoughts, Levi?
Well, it's a tough question. At this point, I would not be surprised if he doesn't start the season as a starter. And even if he does, the last time he was healthy, his shoulder still didn't look good. And then, he had the foot injury last year. And then, coming into a new team with a complex offense, I'm going to say that he's for sure not going to start the season as a starter. And also the other thing is, I would say to just look at the contract, he's signed for backup money. So I would say he's probably going to be the backup. If he does start, then I would say he's not the 4th best in the division. But again, I would not be surprised if he doesn't start the season as a starter.
No, I agree with you. He doesn't have an extended training camp, He's not going to have preseason games. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. And, Rico, so I call you Rico, show me the money, Graziano, but I'm looking at the comments here. Everyone's calling you Rico at the end of the day, Graziano.
He doesn't want to say that Sam Darnold is the worst quarterback because he doesn't want to insult you. That's what
Levi.
He doesn't want to talk bad about the Jets. I said, "Oh, don't worry. He will talk worse. Whatever you say, he will be worse."
Listen, Levi, I've been scarred. Everyone has that one person in your life, whether it's a boss, whether it's a mentor, or whether it's an ex-girlfriend or boyfriend that you thought were great, and then they turn out to be like this. I mean, Rex Ryan was an absolute disaster. The Jets have been a disaster. They haven't been to the Super Bowl since 1969. I think Sam Darnold has talent. He went 6-2 in his last 8 games with no offensive weapons, with Adam Gates, who's an absolute train wreck. Someone said on a show I was listening to, and it was a great comment, and Rico, you could comment on this. They said, Adam Gase, it seems the more money you make, the more talented you are, the less Adam Gase likes you.
That sounds about right. No, you know what I love is that when he signs a big player, he shoots them down immediately because that's his motive. That's the way he motivates his big money running backs and everybody. That's the way he does it. Like, hey, I just want to let you know that I did not want you, and I don't know what to do with you, because that seems to be what he says to every player that he pays big money to.
He's been, listen, I don't think they should have hired him, but we're not going to get into that. I want to talk about fantasy football. People are taking notes. People want to know what you guys have to say. So I'm going to say this right now to you. Last year, I had the 9th pick in the draft, and I picked Patrick Mahomes, and I got to the playoffs, and I won money. This year, I have the 6th pick in the draft. I'm picking Patrick Mahomes. Levi, you could start with this. You're going to say I'm crazy.
You're definitely crazy. I mean, if I picked a quarterback in the first round in my league, I would never win, whether it's Lamar Jackson or Pat Mahomes. It's just way too high, in my opinion. I love him. When Mahomes was a rookie, I was going crazy saying that he's the greatest of all time already. So I absolutely get it. But at the same time, I don't get good picking a quarterback that high. This year, if I had the first pick, I'd definitely be taking McCaffrey, potentially Saquon, because I could see them running him like crazy. With the new offensive coordinator from Dallas over there who just ran Zeke like crazy. But I definitely would not be taking a quarterback first overall.
Okay, here's my rebuttal. You guys put so much value on the running back, okay? Derrick Henry, who carried the Tennessee Titans to the AFC Championship. They took the ball out of Ryan Tannehill's hands. Ryan Tannehill, in the first 2 playoff games, threw 13 times and 14 times. Okay, Patrick Mahomes throws 27 times and a half. Derrick Henry just signed a contract, 4 years, $50 million. Patrick Mahomes just signed a $450 million contract. So how is he not the most valuable player? How is he not the sure pick in the first round? Rico, answer that question.
Because he's a quarterback. The quarterback ranking of the top 3 from the rest of the group it's still close. Just because it's Patrick Mahomes doesn't mean that the numbers are that much different. But I've said at the 9th pick, and me and Levi have had the conversation of going Mahomes, Kelsey back to back because you get it 3 picks later. And we've discussed it and we've talked about it. But the reality is that it's a bad idea. And I knew it was a bad idea saying it, but there's just too many quality quarterbacks that you can get I can get a Russell Wilson in round 7, round 6. Why would I give up a Derrick Henry or a Saquon for Patrick Mahomes?
Because Patrick Mahomes is going to have the most fantasy football points.
Yeah, but how many more points does he have than the 4th quarterback off the board? How many more points is he going to have than Russell Wilson? Is the question. Russell Wilson, round 6.
I disagree with you guys, but like I posted, I disagree. But you guys are the ones we look to. So people are taking notes here. You guys are the fantasy football nerds. So I'm going to defer to you. So
real quick, I remember your team. Your team last year was really good. It didn't hinge on Mahomes. Your team throughout the rest of your draft was really you did it well. So I just want to give you a little credit where
Well, thank you, Rico. You never give me credit on the show, so I thank you. And again, Patrick Mahomes missed 3 games last year. I still made the playoffs, so I was happy. Okay, so Rico, we'll start with you. and then we'll go to Levi. Other than Mahomes, if you're drafting quarterbacks, give me your top 5 drafting of quarterbacks right now to start the season.
Baltimore's Lamar Jackson. I like Dallas's Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, and my sleeper is Matt Stafford.
Oh my goodness!
He got hurt.
Whoa.
He was leading the league, and Levi threw this at me, and we talked about this, but he was right. Before he got hurt last year, he was leading the league, and he was actually in the talks of being a potential MVP candidate, but it was week 3 when he got hurt, but he was throwing it. He was slinging it, so he's the under-the-radar guy for me at QB.
All right, Levi, same question, your top 5 quarterbacks.
Well, firstly, again, as much as I love Mahomes, I'm not sure if I'd be taking him first. I might, in fact, be taking Lamar Jackson over him simply because of the running. So he would probably be my first quarterback off the board. Obviously, Deshaun Watson for the same reason. I also love Russell Wilson, Dak, Kyler. My sleeper, who's not really a sleeper, is Carson Wentz.
Thank you. Thank you for saying Carson Wentz. I was like, why are you guys not talking about Carson Wentz?
I don't know why nobody talks about Carson Wentz. I love Carson Wentz. He's going in the 10th round, and whenever he's healthy, which is not very often, but when he's healthy, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, in my opinion.
So, Levi, before we get to the wide receivers, so if you're a betting man, I'm going to tell you right now, the Buffalo Bills quarterback is going to have 30 touchdowns, throw for 3,500 yards, and rush for over 500 yards. Are you saying you're taking that, or you're taking the under or the over?
That's a tough question. I'd probably take
30 touchdowns is a lot, right? 30 touchdowns for that offense.
I'd take the under, but that's a good line.
You love Stephon Diggs going to Buffalo, right? I mean, they now have a legitimate number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, I love him. I always loved him. But the first year on any team is always tough for a wide receiver. We saw it with Odell last year, and I wouldn't be surprised if he struggles early on.
Yeah, but tell him he thinks that Buffalo paid too much money for him. They gave up a first-round draft pick for him.
No, I think we should have got DeAndre. That's what I think.
So, I'm interested. You guys have both said you love the Houston quarterback, but they lost their number 1 wide receiver who went to Arizona. So if it's in the let's say it's in the 4th round, and Deshaun Watson is available and Kyler Murray is available, Rico, you first. Who are you taking? And then we'll go to Levi.
Well, I like Kyler Murray just because I feel like he's in a position to be an MVP candidate. He's, second-year quarterback. He's got it. He was tuning it in towards the end, and I don't know. I just like him better. I like him better. I feel like, we always talk about this, me and Levi, like, who do I like to watch? And that's who I want to cheer for, and so that's who I would choose.
Levi, who would you take, Deshaun Watson or Kyler Murray this year?
So I'd take Deshaun Watson for sure. And that's not to say that he's going to have a better year in real life, but fantasy life and real life are 2 different things.
Exactly.
So I think that Hopkins leaving is actually good for him. I think that's going to make him run a little bit more. Plus, they brought in a bunch of deep threats, which means that he's just going to bomb the hell out of the ball, which he already did. But with Cooks and Will Fuller, even Randall Cobb, these guys are going to spread the field. I think his numbers are going to be great.
It's funny you bring up fantasy life is not the same as real life. I was talking about my ex-girlfriend before, and I don't want to mention her name, but I called her the devil. She didn't look like this. This is fantasy life. Right? She didn't look like that. So I agree with you. Fantasy is not real life, but I'm very interested. One of the guys I really like this year, and you guys haven't mentioned him in your quarterback, he went 4-1 last year. They got a great tight end. They added Melvin Gordon. I love Drew Lock. You guys are not high on him.
I'm not down on him. I like him. I actually had a discussion with my buddy who's a Raiders fan about him, and I was pretty high on a couple of the Broncos, and he's like, no, Lock is not good. I disagree. I think Lock has it. But he's still young. He was turnover prone in college, and it's a new offense. I'm kind of gonna just go with their running backs. I like Gordon a lot. I think their offensive line is gonna be great. But their offensive coordinator loves to run the ball, And we'll see. We'll see. He's a good sleeper pick if you want to pick 2 quarterbacks.
All right, Levi, talk about your top 5 wide receivers.
Well, the obvious one is Michael Thomas. For whatever reason, I was down on him, and Rico got me on board. So thank you, Rico.
Hold on, Rico. Rico, I wrote an article for Nuts and Bolts Sports in preseason last year, and who was my number 1 wide receiver?
Michael Thomas. You couldn't have talked. You talked about him like Marcus Mariota 3 years ago.
I love Michael Thomas. So he's your number 1, Levi.
For that reason, Michael Thomas is the guy.
Yeah.
He's a beast. I was just worried about the volume. I think that with Emmanuel Sanders coming in, he's not going to get as much volume, but I don't think that's a problem. I mean, he's a real beast. Second, I have Devontae Adams because there are no other receivers noteworthy on the Packers. Then Tyreek Hill, obviously, because the Chiefs' offense, and he's just amazing talent. And then Julio Jones. And then for my 5th, that's where it gets tough for me. I'm going to say DeAndre, but like I was saying earlier, I could totally see him pulling what Odell did last year and disappointing a lot of people. And he's going in the range where you want a guaranteed producer. So I'm going to hesitate with him, but I love him. I really love him as a player.
You know, it's funny because, you talk about, what the Packers have done. They really only have only one number 1 option. They don't have a number 2 wide receiver. I agree with you. And I will say this. I think Jarvis Landry is a better fit for the Cleveland Browns than Odell Beckham Jr. is.
Definitely.
Rico?
Yeah, I agree with that statement about Jarvis Landry. But when it comes down, I am not sold on Adams.
So give us your top 5.
Well, of course, Michael Thomas, which I was just thinking in your dream world, Wentz pitches back to Marcus Mariota, throws a touchdown to Michael Thomas, and Michael Thomas spikes it in Rex Ryan. That's your dream. That's when you wake up in the middle of the night with a smile on your face. You're like, this was the greatest thing that happened to me. But I like Julio Jones. I like DeAndre Hopkins. I think he makes it. I love that clip. I think he makes a great point about Hopkins. He's very expensive for somebody who's not proven, but I believe that Arizona knows that they gave up a number 1 pick and they have to make him. He has to be the number 1. You can't rely on Larry Fitzgerald again for the 50th year in a row. I don't know why everybody, even Levi, thinks I'm crazy about Michael Evans. So I just want to, I love him. I think he's great. He was a top 5 pick last year, and now he's like the number, for some weird reason, like people don't have faith in him all of a sudden. I really like him. But on my sleepers, they're not sleepers, they're sleepers. I like Juju, even though he's not a sleeper. I think he's gonna have a great year compared to last year.
What a shock. You picked a Pittsburgh Steeler guy.
Oh shit. Hey,
what a shock.
Me and Levi have a rule to stay off our team, and if we do, we have to talk. Like if you want somebody from Buffalo, I have to do my best to talk him out of it, or he has to talk me into it. And then we find out where we really are. So like when it comes to Pittsburgh, he likes Juju, and I'm like, I hate him. I don't want to touch him. And he talked me into Juju, not me.
So guys, Austin Hooper left Atlanta. He had 75 catches last year. Calvin Ridley had 63, the talented wide receiver out of Alabama. Do you think Julio Jones now it's going to hurt him because you can't double team? They also have Todd Gurley. The Atlanta Falcons are the only team in the history of the NFL that going into the season, every position on offense was a first-round draft pick. So do you think Julio Jones' numbers come down because now they could double and triple team him? And I think maybe Calvin Ridley could be a sleeper wide receiver. They lost Hooper, who was Matt Ryan's go-to guy, and Julio Jones going into Week 14. Tyler Boyd of the Cincinnati Bengals had more catches than Julio Jones.
You bring up a bunch of really good points. First of all, I love Ridley. You're definitely onto something there. I think that he could be this year's Chris Godwin. But they did bring in Hayden Hurst, and they paid a pretty big price for him, a second rounder, and he was a first-round pick, don't forget. So I think that he'll easily replace Hooper. And they love to throw the ball there. Dirk Cutter loves throwing the ball. So I think that all the passing options on the Falcons are going to be good. I do hesitate with Gurley because they pass so much and because of his injury concerns. But they're still gonna have to run the ball. So if he stays healthy, he's also a great pick.
All right, Rico, let's move to something that Jared was on the show, and he was talking about tight ends. Give us your top 3 or 4 tight ends for the season. I know you love the kid from Baltimore, but the tight end position has really become a major asset in offenses over the last couple of years.
Well, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, Zach Ertz. You got these monsters that are, but Levi made a good point. Some of these guys, Andrews wasn't even on. He wasn't even. I don't think he was even drafted till late in the round. Even if he was drafted, like tight ends, like magic tight ends, have been popping up the last 2-3 years that were just not on the radar. So it's like you said, it's become all of a sudden again a very valuable position, and there's probably guys that you can get so late that are going to become superstars, that are going to be make or break, leagues type of guys. So I want to spend a lot of money and get a tight end early, where Levi's talked me into middle, late, let's worry about it later type of pick in fantasy football. And I'm starting to agree with what he says on that.
Okay, Rico, my dad just sent me a text and said, your pictures are so crooked, it's embarrassing.
Well, I'll get
the Steeler one is like just slightly above your chair, and the full Monte one is literally what happened last week. You used like a leveler. They were perfectly even. What's going on there?
I think what happened is that right before we started, I sat down and it didn't look right, so I had to go up and do a quick adjustment. But I was on the clock. I was in like the 30-second zone, so I had to do what I had to do. Again,
I had 15 pages of notes for this show. Rico prepares 30 seconds before he goes on the air. Just shows you the different type of philosophy we have.
If I put it up at night, that's it. It's gone. He's gonna jump. He throws toys at it. Stuff's got to go.
All right, Levi, give us your tight ends, please.
My tight ends would be pretty similar to Rico's. It's going to be, the Kelce's, the Kittles, Ertz. I love Darren Waller, but he's hard to really predict what they're going to do with because the Raiders brought in so many wide receivers.
Do you think Mariota starts for the Raiders midway through the year? Because we know John Gruden can't stand Carr.
That's a good question. He's getting paid a lot of money, and he wasn't that bad last year. Especially, everything for me is fantasy. So in fantasy, he wasn't that bad. And Mariota's not good. I love Mariota coming out, and he just has not proven his draft stock at all. And I don't know. He could pull what Tannehill did last year, this year in Oakland, but they're going to give Carr every chance to succeed.
Okay, and now I want to talk, Rico, let's start with Levi, but Rico, feel free to chime in. It's important. People don't take this seriously, and I know fans listening who are, just the average fantasy football. Defenses are important. They could be the difference between winning and losing every week, because most fantasy football games are 10 points and under. There's not a lot of blowouts week to week if you look at the stats. So give us 3 defenses that can really make a difference this year.
Well, to start with, it's going to be Pittsburgh. But let me just, before I even go there, let me just say that in my opinion, I don't even care about defense. I might not even draft a defense, because look at my first defense in the league this year is going to be Pittsburgh. Last year, they weren't even drafted. They were not drafted at all. So you're going to tell me it's worth a high investment in a defense? You don't know from year to year what defense is going to be good just because they were good.
Well, I know the Steelers are going to have a lot of sacks this year. We know that.
They should, and Minka was a great.
Same with Cleveland.
Yeah. So I'm not going to invest heavy stock or heavy pick into a defense.
Okay, but can I just stop you for a second? And
sure.
Here's where I'm going to interject. We know the reason why the Patriots have been so successful, the reason why the Packers are so successful. A few years ago, when the Packers went to the NFC Championship, they had 3 free agents on their roster. That's it. Where they make their money, where Bill Belichick misses in the first round, second round, but where Bill Belichick makes his money is late round picks. Where you can win money in fantasy football is late round picks. You're telling me don't even pick a defense this year.
No,
just
I'm
pick them up on free agency.
No,
Is
I'm
that
sorry.
what you're
No, I'm
saying?
not saying don't pick a defense, but I see guys. I do a lot of mocks. I see guys in my mocks taking a defense in like the 7th, 8th round. That to me is too early. I'm not saying don't draft one, but wait as long as you can, like until the last 2 rounds, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's come up with a crazy concept that actually works. That where you don't pick up a defense, you take that, you leave that spot empty with a regular player, and then right before the game starts, you realize you do an assessment of who you have. It's really intense stuff to explain, but pretty much you don't pick a defense. The last 2 picks should always be a defense and the kicker. But that being, that also being said, he's right. You don't want to spend money because the difference between the best defense and the middle of the pack defense is not that far off. Like you don't want to waste a 7th. Pittsburgh's going in the 7th, 8th round with the wide receivers this year. Not in a million years. And I love Pittsburgh.
Okay, so Rico, the good news is when I do a close up on you, it's kind of blurry, and that's good because you have the face for radio. So we're actually winning right here with your cheesy background and your face with the blurry. So Levi, you go ahead, Rico.
It's going to be all year, so just get used to it. I might put multiple. I might put more right back here of the same exact picture copied. My ink's running out. It might be worse.
What we're going to do is we're going to have you on to do the gambling. We're going to have Levi on if he wants to. Both of you guys come on every week to do fantasy football for the week. But Levi, you said the Steelers. Give me 2 other defenses.
San Francisco and Baltimore. I think Baltimore's probably going the later of the latest of that bunch. So I kind of lean towards Baltimore if I had to pick one. Their defense, they didn't really lose anybody from last year, and they brought in a bunch of good players in the draft. So I'm kind of high on them.
Rico, give us your 3 defenses. Is it the same as Levi?
Yeah, same as Levi. I agree with everything he said.
Okay, I'm going to say something here. I think the Bears are going to be better than most teams think. Khalil Mack only had 48 tackles last year, had an off year. Do you think the Bears can be a top 5 to 7 defense? Rico, start with you.
Yes, I think so. Just because I feel like the pool of elite defenses is low, and it's an offensive league. Nobody wants to see 3-0 games as we saw from the ratings of the Super Bowl.
13-3, 13-3 with New England and the Rams. Levi, I start each show with the good, the bad, and the ugly, but I gotta be honest here. The Minnesota Vikings defense is going to be pretty good this year.
I don't know. I mean, they're always good, so I'll have to agree with you. But they did lose a lot of pieces, so I hesitate with them. They weren't as good as they have been in years past this past year. So
What about the Denver Broncos? Do you like Vic Fangio with the 2nd year? They know what he's going to be. And look, they are going to improve. They got Melvin Gordon. They got Jerry Jeudy. They got the kid from Penn State. You have a quarterback now. Think about this. Drew Lock, in 4 years in college, had 4 different offensive coordinators. In 2 years in the NFL, he's had 2 different offensive coordinators. He's had 6 offensive coordinators. We know Denver's offense is going to be better, so their defense won't be on the field. Do you think Denver could be a top 5 defense, even though they play in a very good offensive division?
Top 5 is high. I mean, they got to play the Chiefs twice, so I don't know. But they're really good. I'm actually really high on them too, and I think that bringing in Gordon was a great signing. People are not really looking at that, but I think they're going to really use Gurley and take the pressure off of Locke, and that should also take the pressure off their defense.
Rico, you know what's so funny is Levi's being so polite when he disagrees with me. By week 8 in the season, he's going to be Monte, you're an idiot.
He's so nice. He's like, I don't want to get him upset. I'm like, no, that's what you want.
Listen, Levi, I am not the president. I don't want yes men around me. If you disagree with me, say, Monte, you're an idiot. You don't have to call me an idiot. You don't have to get personal. I know I'm an idiot, but just be like, Monte, no, I disagree. I know you agree with me, but you're not saying it, but your body language is telling me everything.
Yeah, it's gambling. It's gambling. Nobody knows. That's why I'm not going to disagree with you. Like, yeah, they could be top 5. We don't know. I mean,
we'll know by week 4 where they stand. We'll know real soon where everybody stands.
Okay, so here's the thing that concerns me. I think Justin Herbert's going to be a good quarterback. I think Tua Tagovailoa in Miami is going to be a very good quarterback. They are not having OTAs. They are not having preseason. So they're not going to be the typical rookie quarterback who can watch a ton of film and then work out their mistakes on the field and practice. So give me a rookie. Start with you, Rico, who you think is going to make a world of difference this year and do well in fantasy football.
Well, I think Jonathan Taylor, the running back for the Colts, I think he's going to come in because it's an easier position to come in.
Wisconsin, very good running back.
Yeah, it's an easier position to come in and just start going. And even if my other one would be Keyshawn Vaughn, the running back for the Bucs. Like he's going to be, they're put in positions where they can excel, and it's not, it's like here's the ball, run left, here's the ball, run right. Go into this hole, that hole. It's not so complicated as it's going to be with the quarterbacks or the wide receivers. There's not much chemistry needed to be a running back compared to these other positions. That's why I like them as rookie standouts.
All right, Levi, give us your answer, please.
My answer would be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But last night I couldn't sleep and I was going back and forth. Who do I want, Jonathan Taylor or Clyde Edwards-Helaire? And I actually decided on Jonathan Taylor in the end. So I'm very happy to hear you say that, Rico. Because with that line, he just looks like he's going to dominate. But at the same time, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is also going to dominate, in my opinion. If they give him a shot, he just pops off. Whenever he comes on the field, whenever I was watching his tape in college, he just looks so good. But at the same time, with the COVID, and they have Damian Williams, so there is a possibility that they don't give him the starting job until later in the season, which is why I was going to lean with Taylor. So, but either one are great pick.
Listen, I love Clyde Edwards-Helaire. My brother Pete's a huge LSU fan. He fits perfectly in that system. Andy Reid has spoken so highly of him. He could catch the ball. Listen, he's undersized, but we had someone on last week, Jeffrey Meyer, and he from Kansas City, and he says he kind of reminds him of a little bit of a Darren Sproles, and if he could be 70% of Darren Sproles in that offense, that he's going to have a tremendous, not only season, but a tremendous career. I agree with you. I think both of those guys will do well. I'm a little disappointed. Like this is becoming a wide receiver league, and none of you guys think, a Jerry Jeudy, one of the wide receivers out of Alabama. None of you guys think that the wide receivers, C.D. Lamb for the Dallas Cowboys. I loved him at Oklahoma. You guys don't see any of these guys catching 70 passes?
I do. I mean, I could see a world where one of those two guys wins you a league. I could also see Henry Ruggs doing really well with the Raiders. But probably the guy that I would have the most faith in is Jalen Reagor with Philly because they don't have any other wide receivers. But that said, I love the running back position. In my opinion, you don't win or lose with wide receivers. You win and lose with running backs. The wide receivers just need to be consistent. You're not going to have a Alvin Kamara type wide receiver who comes in and just dominates the league in fantasy.
I know Levi has disagreed with me all the time, but I will let you know that I had Jalen Reagor in my article for Nuts and Bolts Sports going to the Philadelphia Eagles in the draft. Most people had him as a late first round, maybe second first round, but they also added Godwin from San Francisco. The Eagles were the slowest wide receiving core and slowest team in the NFL. You add him from TCU, you add Godwin. Carson Wentz won basically with practice squad players. So now that he has some speed and they can vertically pass down the field, if Deshaun Jackson just shuts his mouth and plays football, he'll be all right instead of saying anti-Semitic things, on his social media feed. I think getting Deshaun Jackson back will be a tremendous help as well. Rico, do you think the Eagles in the NFC, we have about 7 minutes left, you think the Eagles in the NFC win that division, or do you think the Dallas Cowboys take it? My friend Andrea says the Giants are going to win that division, or if not win the division, they're going to make the playoffs. Do you see that happening?
I think it's going to come down to the last two or 3 weeks where those four teams are going to I don't think people are counting out Washington in that division. I think Washington is the –
Well, their ownership is a disaster.
Well, I think it's exactly. Now it's the players who are going to step up and be who they are. And it's kind of, it's one of those things like, I mean, I know the ownership, it's the team is not the owner. The owner reflects on the team. But I think teams like Washington are the ones who are going to knock people out. Like they'll knock Philadelphia out if Philadelphia doesn't play up to the level that they need to, they're the team who's going to knock out.
They can be the spoilers.
Yes, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. They're going to be the spoilers.
I know. You know a lot of words, Rico. You know a lot of words, like our president. I know a lot of words. Rico, so answer the question. Who wins the NFC East?
I'm going to give it to the last week of the year and give it to the Cowboys.
And do you get 2 playoff teams out of there or no?
2 playoff teams out of there?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's going to happen.
So you disagree with my friend Andrea. You don't think the Giants are going to make a run?
I would love to see the Giants make a run, but I don't think they will. I think they're about 2 years away from making a serious playoff run.
Levi, who wins the NFC East?
I would go with Dallas. It's the easy pick, but there's just too much talent there. So I think they're definitely the favorite there. I love Philly too, though. Especially again in fantasy, pretty much everything you were saying about the receivers there and Carson Wentz, and their defense is always good. So I think they're both going to be very competitive.
Here's what I'm going to say about the NFC. Yes, Dallas has improved, but Carson Wentz beat them and took a Philadelphia Eagle team to the playoffs with practice squad players as his wide receiving core. They're getting healthy. I mean, how is Dallas better than the Eagles at this point?
I would say just consistency. And on offense, they have a lot, at least on paper, more talent. They lost Byron Jones, though. That's a pretty big loss on defense. But the Eagles' Achilles heel has been for a bunch of years now their secondary. So until they can show me that their secondary is up to par, I'm going to go with Dallas.
All right, Eli. I'm Levi. I was thinking Eli Manning. One more question before we let you guys go. Who wins the AFC East? Break down every team's record for the AFC East. Obviously, you're a Buffalo Bills fan. They look like they're making all the right moves. I love their head coach, and I love the head coach in Miami too. So talk about this division. Who wins the AFC East? Give me the record for the Bills, the Patriots, the Jets, and the Miami Dolphins.
I'm not sure about records. To be honest, I didn't do a deep dive like that just yet. So I'll get back to you on my actual records. I'm going to go with the Bills, but I'm scared I'm jinxing it.
Wait a minute. You're not jinxing. They made it to the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years with their coach, correct?
That is correct, but Bill Belichick is still Bill Belichick, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know what they're doing over there with Cam. I don't know. He just
when they signed Cam, were you like, we still got this, or you like, I'm a little nervous?
I was like, here we go again. They always do this.
For the first time in his New England history, he has a quarterback that can roll out and can run. He didn't have that with Brady. So as great as Tom Brady is, they were limited. So you're saying the Bills win the division. Do they get 2 playoff teams out of this division?
I don't think so. I think it's probably just the Bills. It'll be either the Bills or Patriots fighting for the division. I think that the Jets and Dolphins show a lot of promise. I actually really like the Jets. I think that if everybody stays healthy for a year, they could be very competitive, but especially in fantasy, I just despise Adam Gase. He's just so unpredictable, and he makes like so many boneheaded calls.
Monte, ready? Who do you like better, Rex Ryan or Gates?
Gase.
No, I'm asking your answer.
I can't stand Adam Gase. The problem with Rex Ryan is every comment Rex Ryan ever had was, yeah, we lost the game, but we punched them in the mouth. Like, this isn't a street fight, Rex. You know, we're going to go out and intimidate people. No, you're not. Tom Brady was never intimidated. But Rico, okay, so before we let you guys go, got a couple minutes here. Break down the AFC North. I think it's going to be 12-4 for the Ravens, 10-6 for the Browns. Steelers go 8-8, 9-7. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing record as the Steeler coach. Break down that division. I think my brother loves Joe Burrow, but they're going to be terrible. They have a terrible offensive line. You know, they're not going to be a good team. So break down that division.
Cincinnati, you can move out of it, just slip out of it, get it out of the way. But I think Pittsburgh's gonna have a better. Let's go talk to me having to deal with my own issues when it comes to Pittsburgh. I don't see 8-8. I actually think they'll be. If Ben goes to the end of the year, they have 11 wins, I believe, and I think
you sound like the other George Lopez.
No,
about the Rams.
Well, he was right.
11 wins?
He was right 2 years ago. And that being said, remember, before he got hurt, he was the passing leader. The year prior to getting hurt, Ben was the passing leader. Your words exactly, the most under less talked about passing leader in the NFL.
I love how you say my words and you can't even repeat the phrase.
I can't even
Your
repeat
words. I was going to use a honeymooner quote, but no one knows what the hell that is because we have young owners. Humming.
The Ravens win the division, but Pittsburgh goes to the playoffs. That division, I believe, 2 teams come out of it. As long as Ben stays to the end of the year, they'll be fine. Their defense carried them last year with no offense. They had 0. If you had a better chance, if you just brought the.
Do you know how? Whether it's Pro Football Focus, whether it's Bleacher Report, whether it's ESPN. Everyone has the Cleveland Browns as the number 2 or number 3 skill position players. They have 2 running backs. They have 2 wide receivers. They have maybe the best catching tight end in the NFL in Austin Hooper. And their defense is going to be much better, and they have a new coach.
Well, last week, the over-unders on team wins, look what the 4th best team with offensive weapons was Carolina Panthers, but yet Vegas doesn't think they're going to win over 4 games. You know, Vegas doesn't think Cleveland Browns are going to win over 6 games. Last week when we were doing the over-under picks.
Time out. Vegas has Carolina winning 5 games. That is the worst Vegas pick I've ever seen. Matt Rule drafted 7 defensive players in 7 rounds. First time it's ever been done. He's an offensive coach. You don't think Christian McCaffrey?
There's a reason it's never been done, because it's not a good idea. That's just what I'm saying. I mean, you know, it's like he's not, you know, because if it was if Belichick did it, then you're like, wow, okay, maybe we missed something. But that being said, at the end of the day.
Good job, Rico. You finally made a good point in 40 minutes into the show. You finally made a good point. But Rico, so you're saying the Steelers are going to be the number 2 team in the AFC North?
Yes, definitely.
Levi, you don't agree with that?
I don't disagree, but I do like the Browns. I'm pretty high on the Browns this year. I think the hype was just too large last year, but I think they're actually going to do really well this year.
Okay, finally, last question here. Am I crazy for saying that over the next 5 years, the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes will go to 3 AFC championship games over under Levi?
In the next 5 years, 3 AFC championship games?
Listen, the Patriots went to what, 16?
True, but
the Patriots won 15 divisions. Okay, they went to I think 8. So 3 in the next 5 years. Remember, they have 20 of their 22 starters turning. So if I tell you Kansas City Chiefs 3 AFC championship games over the next 5 years, you're going to say no, Levi?
I'm going to say definitely no. I mean, it's so unpredictable year to year in the NFL. You're not saying winning the division. You're saying AFC championship. That's a big difference.
Wow.
To win the division, I would say yes. But year to year, things change. I love Mahomes. Don't get me wrong. I think he's worth every dollar that he got. But AFC championship, 3 out of 5, that's pretty high.
Rico?
I agree, because you know what? In 2 years, all of a sudden the money.
So they're not the next dynasty.
It's a money situation. They will be somewhat of a dynasty, but there's a money situation that, you know what? When your quarterback's taking over 25%, guys are leaving. Contracts are going to come up in 2 or 3 years. And they're going to be like, you know what? It's great. Thanks for the Super Bowl rings. I'm going to cash in now. I already got my ring. These guys aren't going to sit around and play, hey, I'm going to give up $3 million to be your defensive man. They're going to be like, I got my ring and I'm leaving. And it's going to be a mass exodus of Kansas City in the next 4 years.
Okay, final question. We're going to let you guys go. Levi, you go first. Kansas City or Baltimore Ravens, you have to bet $1 million. Who goes to the Super Bowl next year?
Chiefs, easy. I trust the coaching staff more. I trust Mahomes more. They have so many weapons, so I definitely put my money on the Chiefs.
Rico made the weirdest face I've ever seen. Can you make that face again, Rico?
That one?
Yeah,
this one?
that was it. So you're saying the Ravens will, if you had to bet money.
Everything he just said about KC, except I'm going to say Lamar Jackson. Everything he said that he feels, I trust the coaching staff. I think that they're a team that you are not going to knock out, that you're going to have to win with, to beat the Ravens, you got to beat them on the last play, because you know what? They learned their lesson last year of walking into a game with their head up there,
The only thing I'm going to disagree with Levi, and he's being nice, I'm not going to be nice here, is Andy Reid couldn't win a Super Bowl for the longest time. If you say I trust the coaching staff, how do you not trust John Harbaugh, who's went to the Super Bowl, who wins who changed his total offense from Joe Flacco, changed everything about that team to Lamar Jackson? You got to trust the Baltimore Ravens coaching staff.
Oh, I do. Don't get me wrong. I definitely trust the coaching staff. I just think that in the modern NFL, Andy Reid is just a better coach for the current situation. And I just think they're better. We can go position by position, but I think they're better stacked.
Position by position. No joke.
I think that they. I don't know that, but
I think the Ravens position by position are way better. The reason why Kansas City was better is Patrick Mahomes, 95% of the time he's on the field, is the best player on the court, like LeBron James. But if you look at the rosters, defense and offense, the Ravens have more talent. You could say a wide receiver, Tyreek Hill. You could say tight end. I don't know. Rico may disagree with this, but Travis Kelce is legit. Travis Kelce is unbelievable. But you look at the Ravens defense. They're pretty damn good.
That's true. They're probably better. So I'll definitely give you that. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to the quarterback, and it always has. So who's the better quarterback?
No, listen, the better quarterback is obviously him. But you just said the end of the day, so you know what that means to all the fans watching. Rico usually says, take a drink. Listen, guys, I want to thank you so much for joining us. You guys are tremendous. We're going to have you on every week during the football season to give us fantasy football, and Rico does the betting. You guys were tremendous. Really appreciate the time. So thank you so much. Levi, you're too nice. You're being too nice to me.
I'll work on it.
If you disagree with me, just say, Monte, I totally disagree. Yeah, I see the body language. You know, there's a scene from one of my favorite movies, and Christopher Walken says, you're saying something, but you're telling me everything by your body language. So I see it. You know, Rico, make that face. When you said the Kansas City has better, look at that face. Guys, thanks so much. Levi, I try to make you feel at home with the Bills background, even though I'm a Jet fan. So thanks, guys, so much. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a good Sunday.
You too.
I want to thank everyone for listening to the full Monte Sports Show. Sorry about the little technical difficulties we had, but this is a work in progress. This show is only going to be as successful as you make it, as the fans make it. So thank you so much for tuning in. And, you know, I can't be happier with the comments during the show. You guys, the more you talk, the more you post this on social media, the more motivated I get. And in the immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. Thanks for tuning in. You've been listening to the full Monte Football Show. We work hard on Sundays, so you don't have